Michael knew how to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And he knew that with everything that he did. That's why I think he dyed his face and all that, because he knew how to get bigger. Why you ain't dye your skin black?
Michael Jackson said he had a skin disorder that changed his skin tone from brown to a porcelain white. But did he? I mean, yeah, it was well documented. It was even in his autopsy. Come on, y'all, keep up. But in this video, we're gonna take a look back at Michael Jackson's vitiligo with a 2023 lens. These days, we understand the disorder more. Well, at least some of us do. Especially with those in the public eye like Winnie Harlow, who beautifully embrace it. However, vitiligo typically comes in patches like you would see here. Michael's, on the other hand, seems so uniform. What did he do that was different? Michael would vehemently deny bleaching his skin, though.
Have done or are doing, are you bleaching your skin? And is your skin lighter because you don't like being black?
Okay, number one, as I know of, there is no such thing as skin bleaching. I have never seen it. I don't know what it is.
Well, they used to have those products growing up. I used to hear always use bleach and glow, but you'd have to have about 300,000 gallons.
Okay, number one, this is the situation. I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help, okay? But when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me.
But after his death in 2009, detectives found 18 tubes of hydroquinone and 19 tubes of benequin in his home. These are both prescribed substances used to fade discoloration. Hydroquinone is commonly prescribed for fading things like dark spots and melasma. Now that benequin, though, that's not something you're gonna hear of often. It's typically used in the final depigmentation process in vitiligo. Basically, sometimes in vitiligo, the white patches become so progressed that it makes more sense to just fade whatever small remaining brown spots there are. However, what is the truth when it comes to Michael Jackson's skin? Let's explore. So let's take it back. Michael Jackson was the world's biggest pop star back in a time where if you were a fan of someone and you really wanted to be a fan of someone, you had to put in work. There wasn't no just picking up the phone and you could have instant access to your favorite celebrity. There wasn't none of that back then. In many instances, you had to carry your behind down to the newsstand, buy a physical newspaper or magazine, pay for it, and then read to find out the latest tea on your favorite celebrity. Which is crazy, because that wasn't so long ago, and now we see how, much people don't read now, like, damn. Or you joined their fan club and then you waited weeks, months, maybe even years to, get some updates through the snail mail. Or maybe you watched entertainment news channels to find out what was going on in the world of celebrity. Back in the day, the media had us in a chokehold when it came to getting info on our faves. So as you can imagine, these mediums were
big business.
And stories on Michael Jackson drew in millions upon millions of eyeballs. And the crazier the story was, even if it wasn't true, meant
big money for these outlets.
Now, if you think Meghan Markle had it bad in the UK with the tabloids and the media coming after her, imagine what would happen to a mysterious figure like Michael Joseph Jackson, who was so famous that his videos would be a world premiere. The world stopped what they were doing to watch the latest premiere of the Michael Jackson video all at the same time. That man was so famous that grown-ass people would just be fainting, just passed out on the streets at a glimpse of him. Now imagine how his ever-changing skin tone over the years, things he rarely talked about in the media. Just imagine how much speculation that would draw. Like, what if Beyonce took a hiatus in between albums and then came back looking white as a ghost, but continued to perform and going about her business without saying a word about what happened to her skin? Like, that's crazy. And the speculations would be speculating. But even after Michael told the world in his infamous 1993 interview with Oprah Winfrey that he had vitiligo,
sometime after Thriller, around Off the Wall Thriller, sometime
and what did you think? I mean,
it's in my family. My father said it's on his side. I can't control it. I don't understand. I mean, it makes me very sad. I don't want to go into my medical history because that's something that's private, but that's the situation here. So please, when people see something like that.
I just want to get this straight. You are not taking anything to change the color of your skin.
Oh, God, no.
You did not purposely.
We're trying to control it, and using makeup evens it out because it makes blotches on the skin, and I have to even out my skin.
Folks still ain't believe his ass.
I mean, even still today in 2023, you got people saying some mess like this.
Okay, the story is that he had a vitiligo, right? That you know, his mom said that he didn't want to look like a spotted cow, you know, which is why he bleached his skin. Well, if you have vitiligo, you could just wear makeup and make yourself brown again, right? Your natural color. If part of your pigment is being lost, why not go back to your real color?
Vitiligo is a skin disorder where the melanocytes, and as you know, the melanocytes are the cells that are responsible for giving the skin its pigment. And when you have vitiligo, those melanocytes become so destroyed or inactive, resulting in white patches or depigmented areas on your skin. Vitiligo can happen to any race. However, in darker skinned individuals, it looks more prominent because of the contrast between the white porcelain skin and the browner skin tone. To gather more insight on what vitiligo treatments typically entail, and so that we can maybe kind of speculate what might have happened with Michael Jackson, I spoke to friend to the channel, board certified dermatologist Dr. Corey Hartman, and he told me that historically we haven't had a lot of info on vitiligo, so we haven't had a lot of great treatments. However, there are some treatment methods that can be used currently depending on the patient's condition. Some of the mainstays are topical steroids, although vitamin intake can be helpful in combination with treatments, particularly folic acid, vitamin C, and B12. He also mentioned phototherapy, but he said that it winds up not being a great option because patients need to be in close proximity to the derm office, as treatments are needed to be performed a few times a week. And then he also mentioned a new medication called Opzelura, which has seen some promising results with patients with conditions like psoriasis, eczema, and alopecia universalis. And it may also provide some results where patients can see some of their original color come back, but this is often best seen in patients who don't have large areas of depigmentation. But when it comes to all of these treatments, they do seem to work best in patients whose vitiligo are less widespread, unlike what we're being told what was going on with Michael Jackson's condition, which could have also been exacerbated because of his lupus.
Vitiligo is tricky. It is very frustrating. And I tell patients there from the outset that they're going to have a lot of patience with it, and that they might not even appreciate improvement. And that's why check-ins are important. Michael Jackson has always been a topic of conversation because nobody really knows what the story is. From what I understand, he really did have vitiligo. Either the disease state got so out of hand that it just took over, which it does, it can do that. I've seen it rapidly march on and just totally depigment a person. But there's also an option that people have for this medicine called Benequin, which is really like a high-dose hydroquinone that has the potential to not only lighten the skin that you apply it to, but to lighten the skin. It goes systemic. So with the level of depigmentation that Michael Jackson had, and knowing that Michael Jackson had a lot of means, I would think that he probably took that route, but it's just as likely that, especially because he was an entertainer, he was in the line, you know what I mean? He had more pressure than another person would have, or the disease just took over.
According to Michael, his vitiligo started sometime around Thriller, so we're talking the early to mid 80s. Now, a lot of people do speculate that his signature single glove came about because he was trying to hide some of the patches that were on his hand. A lot of the vitiligo signs were probably happening right underneath our noses and we just didn't notice it, because back then the patches were easy enough to cover up with brown makeup. So wherever he had like the white patches, his makeup artist would just cover it up with brown makeup.
You know, in the beginning, I tried to cover the light spots to the darkest part of his skin, but then it became so extensive that we had to go with the lighter part of the skin because his whole body was reacting. He'd have to be in complete, full body makeup every inch of his body, you know, so it was easier to make the transition to him being to the lighter shade.
Which, if you thought the cosmetic industry for dark skin was bad now, whew, back then. Whew. But vitiligo can progress, and Michael's did, and it got to a point where it just made more sense to match whatever patches of brown were left with the dominant white color. And for those who are like, well, you know, that's a cop-out, he could have just covered himself in brown. Have you ever worn makeup? Like, I love wearing makeup, and as much as makeup tries to say it's transfer proof, once you start sweating, oil breakthrough, any of that kind of stuff, and that makeup is going to transfer. So you mean to tell me you expecting somebody who's, you know, performing on stage and he was, you know, giving it under them hot lights to have on full body makeup? Now, something that a lot of people may not consider is the huge impact his skin condition had on his self-esteem. As a matter of fact, he went through great lengths to hide the extent of the condition, even from his family. As a matter of fact, here's something his brother Jermaine said about it in his book. He stands in front of us, head bowed as if he feels shame. It's the first time I see the true extent of his skin condition, and it shocks me. His self-consciousness is such that he kept his body hidden from his family until now. His torso is light brown, splashed with vast areas and blotches of white spreading across his upper chest. One patch of white covers his ribs and stomach. Another runs down his side, and blotches cover one shoulder and upper arm. There is more white than brown, his natural skin color. He looks like a white man splashed with coffee. This is the skin condition, the vitiligo, that a cynical world says he doesn't have, preferring to believe that he bleaches his skin. So if Michael did not bleach his skin, why is it that unsealed search warrants found that there were those 18 bottles of hydroquinone and the 19 bottles of Benequin that were found in his home? And why also did a former assistant testify in the criminal case against Dr. Conrad Murray for Michael's death? Why did he testify that he was asked to remove the creams from Michael's home because it was something that Michael would not want the public to know about?
I've only treated 2 patients with this. Both of them were white patients, and they had significant disease enough that I thought it was warranted. Okay. I was very careful about how much I would let them have. You know, it takes, I think, 30 grams to cover your whole body. So, and you don't really have to put it on the areas that are already depigmented. So I would say 30 grams times 30, you're looking at about, you know, 800 grams a month if you're doing it. And we give them like a jar of it, and I would regulate it really closely with no refill. So that is a lot.
So here's my theory. I speculate that Michael was telling the truth in 1993 when he told Oprah that, to his knowledge, he has never heard of bleaching his skin, that he doesn't bleach his skin. Because I believe that maybe at that point he was still just covering it up with makeup. And then there's also the semantics around the word bleaching, right? So for instance, in today's colloquial terms, if you say somebody bleached their skin, then you're talking about like this video where I talked about, you know, people in the Caribbean and in Asian countries that bleach their skin. So typically when we hear the word bleaching, we're thinking about somebody who is taking their natural skin color and putting chemicals on it to appear 2, 3, 4, you know, so many shades lighter than their natural skin tone. However, the term bleaching agent is also used in dermatology to refer to things like hydroquinone, cysteamine, kojic acid, etc. These are things that are used in common skin occurrences like dark spots to fade the discoloration and get a more even skin tone. It's not bleaching in the terms of like, I want to be 3, 4, 5, you know, whatever many layers of skin tone.
Lighter.
However, I do think he was telling the truth in 93, but however, as time went on, his vitiligo progressed and it got to a point where it just made sense to even out the skin by lightening whatever small brown patches may have been left. I remember vividly the way that the media and people socially would be so negative about Michael's skin tone that it makes me wonder, how different would he have been treated had we had today's social media and today's social consciousness back then? Part of me is like, all right, you know, we would have had a bunch of stan accounts and people would have rallied behind him, and we probably would have maybe countered a lot of the way that the press was negatively portraying him. I do think in general that his skin disease would have been treated with much more grace had this been today's social landscape. However, I ain't blind, I do have eyes, and I see a lot of the nasty comments that people leave, and it's just like, in droves, and the death threats and things like that, and y'all crazy out there. So I don't know if it would have been that much different. You let me know what you think. Now, while there's speculation on what Michael Jackson did to his skin tone, these people in the next video definitely bleached their skin. Go ahead and watch as I react to skin bleaching videos from around the world in the next video, and I'll see you there.